Viewed by the district attorney. To break down the potential legal consequences for Tony Stewart, we welcome sports attorney and SportsIllustrated.com contributor Michael McCann. Michael, what possible criminal charges could Tony Stewart face?
Well, Steve, it would depend on whether or not law enforcement believes he had some degree of intent. In a worst-case scenario for Stewart, he would be looking at murder in the second degree, where there was depraved indifference toward the life of Kevin Ward, that he created an incredible risk by the manner in which he drove. Very unlikely to happen, particularly given the sheriff's early comments. Lower than second-degree murder would be charges along the lines of manslaughter in the second degree or negligent homicide. These are about reckless or careless acts that created a risk that led to an accident, but really go back to the fact that, or at least the alleged fact that, Stewart may have been just simply irresponsible in how he drove, not having intent to hurt, not having intent to kill or anything like that, but just driving recklessly. That can lead to potential felony charges.
When it comes to manslaughter or negligence, what is the potential jail time for something like that?
Well, manslaughter in the second degree, he would be looking up for a maximum of 15 years in prison, negligent homicide up to 4 years in prison, but it's worth stressing that he would be a first-time offender, and there are likely a number of factors that would lead to a sentence way lower than those amounts, and I think it's also worth cautioning, given the sheriff's comments suggest that there won't be any charges, but again, if he were to face those charges, the prison sentences would be in the extreme ends, 15 and 4 years, but he wouldn't face anything near that.
So as the sheriff said, no charges right now. But Michael, what about the possibility of a wrongful death lawsuit brought against Stewart and the prospect of a settlement towards family?
That's right, Steve. I think this is the area of law where we're likely to see some activity. Wrongful death is about being irresponsible, being unreasonable, and causing the death of another person. Was Tony Stewart's behavior unreasonable? It clearly caused the death of Kevin Ward. That part's clear. Would a jury believe that he was unreasonable? Well, it would depend on how we interpret the situation. It was a racetrack. Crashes happen, but this was a little bit different. This was somebody had left his car. There was a caution flag. It's a unique circumstance that we're not accustomed to. Now, it's clear that Tony Stewart has a great deal of financial wealth. He's been reported to be worth over $100 million. Whether that's true or not, he's worth a lot. He may see it in his interest to strike a deal with the Ward family where they agree to relinquish any potential claims and that they agree probably not to talk to the media. That's often part of a confidentiality agreement that's part of a settlement. Because if they instead go to trial, Steve, this could be a very damning case. Kevin Ward was only 20 years old. He had a great future ahead of him. Those would lend themselves to a potentially significant damages award.
Michael, how much time does the Ward family have in order to bring a lawsuit against Stewart?
Steve, they have 2 years to bring a lawsuit, so they'll probably take some time, and I would imagine the attorneys for Stewart will reach out to the family and talk about reaching a deal to avoid the litigation process. We've heard a lot of hostility towards lawyers and the law in the aftermath of this tragedy. One way of keeping lawyers and the law away is to reach an agreement out of court. That's away from the media, that ends the situation for all involved.
But this could be something that hangs over Stewart at least until August of 2016. Michael, what liability could Canandaigua Motor Sports Park and the race organizers have in this situation?
Well, right now, Steve, it doesn't look like they're likely to face liability because it doesn't appear that there was any negligent conduct by the track or by the officials. A caution flag was thrown. The track itself doesn't have a history, as far as we know, of unusual injuries or anything along those lines. You know, in theory, there's always the potential for litigation. Sue the organizers, sue the officials. I don't think that's going to happen here. I don't see fault on the part of those who organized the race or those who hosted it.
All right, SportsIllustrated.com contributor Michael McCann, appreciate the time here today on Outside the Lines. Now, Tony Stewart has made a fortune in racing, as Michael mentioned, and